It looked like Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban could never be beaten for almost 20 years. The Hollywood star and the country singer who had done something amazing to beat the odds. But that fantasy fell apart in 2025. Nicole filed for divorce just days after he quickly moved out of their Nashville home. She began to tell the truth that she had been hiding for years. After all the hugs, smiles, and red carpet vows, there was a story of betrayal, exhaustion, and a woman who finally refused to protect a man who stopped fighting for her. The best trick ever. Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban were Hollywood's best example of a long, lasting love for almost 20 years. People said it was proof that fame didn't have to end a marriage. They seemed to find a good mix between being beautiful and being humble, between being artistic and being devoted. Behind the perfect smiles and red carpet poses, though, was a story that was much more fragile. Their love story started with magic and ended with quiet heartbreak, like many great Hollywood love stories. The two met at the Good Day USA Gala in Los Angeles in 2005. The event was a celebration of Australian talent in the United States. Nicole was 38 years old and still excited about her Oscar win, but she was also deeply troubled by the pain of her split from Tom Cruise and the loss of custody of her two adopted children, Isabella and Connor. She had fixed her job, her reputation, and her strength, but not her family ties. Keith was a rising country star who was only 37 years old. His songs had the pain of someone running away from their own problems. He struggled with drug abuse for years, winning and losing many times. They seemed very different to everyone else. To each other, they looked like broken people who were desperate for security. Their attraction was instant, but it didn't happen quickly like a meteor romance. Keith didn't call her for months after their first meeting because he said she scared him. They fell quickly when he finally did. In June 2006, they got married at St. Patrick's Estate in Sydney, with candles lighting the way. Nicole looked beautiful in her Balenciaga dress. At the party, Keith sang to her. Many people have said that the wedding was like reading a love story written in gold, and fairy tales don't usually make it to real life. Keith checked himself into rehab for alcoholism only 4 months after the wedding. Nicole was caught off guard. She did what she always did instead of leaving. She stayed. She went to see him in rehab, kept him out of the news, and told his friends that love meant forgiving. She really wasn't just fighting for him, she was also fighting for the family she had lost before. During the next few years, she kept up the lie. Keith openly thanked her at award shows, and his voice shook as he called her his saving grace. She thanked him by calling him the man who brought me back to life. Their first daughter, Sunday Rose, was born in 2008, and their second, Faith Margaret, was born in 2010. From the outside, it looked great. Love finally tamed Hollywood's strict queen and Nashville's wild heart. But when the doors were shut, the cracks got bigger. Their relationship started to weaken because of his long trips, his drug use, and her constant fear of losing another husband. There were no calls while she was awake. He drank himself to sleep in the only way he knew how, through work, music, and being far away. Nicole was strong, elegant, and always willing to forgive. But kindness can only go so far. When everyone finally found out the truth, the fairy tale that everyone wanted to believe was no longer shining. It was breaking open. Things were beginning to go wrong with the perfect image. The wedding that turned into a show. Nicole and Keith had been together for 10 years and had already been through a lot that most couples wouldn't. They had been through a lot, like rehab, being away from each other and fame, but the pressure to look unbreakable was even worse. They learned how to trick people. They held hands like kids on the red carpet. During conversations, they used phrases that went together. We're better than ever. We help each other out. But those words came from being tired. Nicole was putting up with a marriage that was wearing her down. Keith got antsy because he was sick of being seen as the one who always needed saving. It became hard for them to keep their love in check. Nicole's life was based on routines and her family. She had lost the security she had with Tom Cruise. It was a mess in Keith's life. There are trips, long nights, and temptation all the time. They tried to set rules, like talking every night before bed, and never more than a few weeks apart. But rules don't work in real life. Plans clashed, vows were broken, and passion was replaced by quiet anger. She wanted to be there. He needed some room. Their public appearance had become part of their brand by the middle of the 2000s. One magazine called them Hollywood's last real marriage. They played the parts so that fans would believe in them. He would kiss her on the shoulder and say something nice for the cameras at award shows. Nicole would smile and be polite and calm. But people who were close to her started to notice the cracks, the fake laughter, and how she seemed to flinch at fake love. For her friends, it was clear she was sick of being his rock. He thought that her need to be in charge was overwhelming. She saved a man who no longer wanted to be saved, and the woman who used to find comfort in him now felt stuck in a role she could not keep up. People began to say that they were living different lives by 2023, that he was away more than at home, and that she was done pretending. Nicole still fought to keep the family together, though. 2 of her children had already died because of being far away. She wasn't going to let 2 more slip away because of quiet. Still, every day the quiet between them got louder, the point where love broke down and distance began. By the beginning of 2024, the cracks were too obvious to ignore. There was a change in Nicole Kidman's voice while she was making Practical Magic 2 with Sandra Bullock in London. Soft, unsure, and almost disoriented, she stopped talking about Keith in the present tense. He told his friends that he needed space to think when he got back to Nashville and quietly set up his own place. The truth was more direct and harsh. He had already made up his mind that the marriage was over. Nicole didn't know at that time. She thought they were going through another rough patch for months. She was cool and reassuring when the tabloids asked her about her marriage. "It takes work to be married. We're both committed, but only one of us is committed anymore." Keith wasn't calling back or coming to family dinners anymore. He wasn't there for days or even weeks. They were living different lives by June 2024. She was filmed for long hours in London, and he was on tour, where the noise drowned out his shame. They were last seen together in public on June 20th at a soccer game in Nashville. They seemed awkward and far away, like 2 players who had to share a stage after the play was over. His friends say that was the night he made up his mind to leave the family home for good. Nicole came home from London to a house that was empty. He was gone. There was no argument or goodbye. It was a quiet exit. The silence was too much for a woman who had thought for years that love could make everything better. She wouldn't let the story end in chaos, though. Nicole kept her cool when rumors spread that he had another woman on his tour crew. She focused on her girls, Sunday Rose and Faith Margaret, and told herself that she would not let the same thing happen again, no matter what. People thought she was the one ending the marriage when they heard in late September that she had officially filed for divorce. But people who knew her well knew the truth. Keith had left months before that. This wasn't an act of revenge. It was the end, the split that made Hollywood tremble. Nicole Kidman asked for a divorce on September 30, 2025, because she and her husband couldn't get along anymore. There was 19 years of pain, dedication, and silence behind those 2 words, though. Sources close to her said she had been thinking about it for months and hoped Keith would change his mind. He didn't. He had already quietly accepted the end of their marriage by signing his part of the papers weeks before. It was even worse because of the time. Nicole filed 24 hours after everyone found out that Keith had left their home in Nashville. People who knew her well didn't think it was cold. "I had to stay alive." Friends think that the public filing for divorce was her way of getting back at him for cheating on her, a source told Woman's Day. But she wasn't mad at all, she was hurt. The fight for the marriage had been over for him for a long time. The divorce papers showed that her children were the things she loved most. Nicole asked to have main residential custody of Sunday Rose, who is now 17, and Faith Margaret, who is 14. Keith would have them 59 days a year. No child or partner support was asked for. They both had their own wealth. Nicole didn't care about the money. It was to keep things stable for her girls. Everyone was shocked by how Keith reacted to the split, though. He went on stage in Pennsylvania just a few days after filing. There was no wedding band, no fighter, and no love song that he had written for Nicole. Instead, he changed the words to one of his songs about breaking up to take your space and take your reasons to take your unreasonable reasons. People in the crowd gasped. It was clear what the message was. The man she had been protecting was finally striking out in public. He rewrote the story on stage, making himself look like the one who got left behind. Nicole, meanwhile, kept quiet, which showed she was upset but not angry. After getting over Tom Cruise, the woman had to rebuild her life. Now she had to watch her second great love fall apart in front of everyone. The lies Nicole could no longer hide. Nicole Kidman did something she doesn't usually do in the weeks after her split became public. She no longer hid how hurt she was. Interviews with wealth, outlines, and carefully staged family pictures were not used. Instead, there was silence and then honesty. The interviewer called her wry, rueful, and unsure of herself in a Vogue cover story that came out on October 9, right before the breakup was reported. She asked softly, "How many times do you have to be taught that you think you know where your life is going, and then it isn't going that way?" When asked how she felt at this point in her life, she said it in a quiet way, which showed that she knew what was going to happen. Friends say she didn't give up hope until the very end. She loves him still even though she broke his heart. One told Daily Mail that she would quickly get back together with him. Nicole couldn't stop liking him even after he broke up with her and news came out that he was seeing another woman in the music business. But love was no longer enough. The dedication that made her who she was before had become her prison. It was revealed by people close to the couple that Keith had been emotionally distant for months before he left. It was quiet when he packed up and left their Nashville home, while she was shooting Practical Magic 2 in London. He was gone when she got back. There was no notice or explanation. It got even worse when she found out that he had already signed the divorce papers weeks before. One person who knows her said, "It's like someone hit her with a sledgehammer." But Nicole wouldn't put him down in public, even as stories spread that he was flirting with other women on tour, including a younger guitarist who he was too friendly with on stage. She didn't say anything, post anything, or act out. But talking to friends and doing interviews gave me a different picture. One about a woman who stayed in a bad marriage longer than she should have, did more to forgive than she ever admitted, and finally had nothing left to give. What Nicole finally said after the storm, it was no longer big news by late October 2025, but Nicole Kidman's quiet spoke louder than any interview. In Nashville, she was seen walking with her children by her side. Her face was calm, but it was hard to read. People who knew her well said she stopped wondering why he left finally. She knew she couldn't save someone who didn't want to be saved. A friend told me, Nicole wasn't taking care of everyone, saving the day, or being the perfect wife for the first time in years. She was just trying to get back to being herself. In private, she told her friends that it wasn't losing Keith that was the hardest thing. She saw that he had given up a long time before she did. One person who knew her told Woman's Day that she fought until the end, but she knew it was over when she saw that he had already made plans to leave. It got worse when they found out that he might have used parts of their private life in his songs. Nicole is said to think that Keith got ideas for the lyrics on his 2024 record, High and Alive, from their private texts and arguments. He kept quiet when she spoke to him about it. That silence told her everything. She is still kind, despite everything. People who know her say she has decided not to fight back and not to reveal every private detail, even though she could. She is now focused on her work, her daughters, and keeping the peace that she fought so hard to make. Friends tell her she wants to stay in Nashville so her girls can finish school without any problems. The only thing she wanted in the divorce was 306 days of custody a year. This wasn't about having power, it was about love. Nicole's grief is sad and familiar to people who have known her for decades. She lost her family after she and Tom Cruise split up. She has lost another love. She's not running away this time, though. She is taking it straight on. Pain becomes something quiet and stubborn. The Hollywood dream marriage is over. But what's left is something much more real. A woman who stopped taking care of the man who hurt her heart for good. Nicole Kidman said, "Life is out of your hands. You can only live it." When she finally left, do you think she made the right choice? Write your answer in the box below. Don't forget to hit the bell, like, and subscribe for more real Hollywood news.